Hey, listen!
Welcome everyone, this is Andre's Restart, and this time we are talking about the news telling us that there are no current plans for DLC in the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So, is all hope lost for expanded content in this game? And if so, what's next? Well, that's what we're talking about today. But before going forward, let me point out that we are aiming to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so if you do enjoy my content, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. With your help, it can happen. So this news comes in the form of an interview from Famitsu with Eiji Aonuma, the producer for the Zelda series, and we have a translation here from Genki. We have no plans to release additional content this time, but that is because we feel like we have done all we can do to create play in that world. This time, the reason we decided to make a sequel to the previous game in the first place was because we thought it would be worth experiencing new ways to play in Hyrule. If such reasons arise, then we may return to the same world, whether it is a sequel or new work. I think it will be a completely new way to play, so I hope you look forward to it. Then the director for Tears of the Kingdom, Hidemaru Fujibayashi, says, "We are very grateful that so many customers have been playing Tears of the Kingdom for so long and deeply, so we will do our best to make the next title even more enjoyable." So after reading this through a few times, I think it's pretty clear that there will not be any sort of expansion pass to Tears of the Kingdom in the near future. It's possible that something could be lost in translation, so maybe we are misinterpreting this interview here. And it's also possible that while there may be no current plans, that can change in the not so distant future. So for example, maybe Nintendo could have a special expansion planned for Tears of the Kingdom that's meant to come out alongside Nintendo Switch 2. Maybe that also releases alongside some sort of graphical update. Maybe there are no plans to release this DLC for Switch, but maybe a year or two from now, they might release it for Switch 2. Or perhaps it will still come to both systems, but they haven't started working on it yet, so that's why there are no plans, but maybe a few months from now they think, we have some ideas here, let's do this. That's possible. It's also possible this could be a fake out, but I think the safest conclusion is that there will not be any sort of major expansion pass to Tears of the Kingdom. And in some ways it's a bit of a head scratcher for me because we never got a Master Mode or a Trial of the Sword like event in Tears of the Kingdom, and I feel like there should be something like that in the game. That said, there is a ton of content in the game. It isn't like there aren't things to do and enjoy for years to come. But I do find it odd that Nintendo's created this pattern of having some sort of other difficulty option, and it is not in Tears of the Kingdom. Of course, Tears of the Kingdom does have a healthy amount of challenge. So I do see avenues where they can maybe come back and have DLC announced for Tears of the Kingdom, but I think really what this means is that they are just focused on the next big Zelda content. And I think that's the silver lining to this. No matter what decision they make, they are going to continue to make Zelda content. So it isn't like we're going to get less Zelda content, it's simply going to be coming to us in a different way. So instead of the efforts being put into Tears of the Kingdom DLC, they are simply jumping straight into development for the next major Zelda game. And this does open the door for other projects to come sooner. So for example, Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD, those have been rumored for Switch for some time. I think with no DLC plans imminent for Tears of the Kingdom, these become a lot more likely. So if you've been paying attention to my predictions and discussions on what we might see in a Direct, it's been either Tears of the Kingdom DLC or an announcement for Wind Waker Twilight Princess. And with this interview, I think the idea of DLC for Tears of the Kingdom happening anytime soon is fairly unlikely. But now, maybe we could get an announcement for Wind Waker or Twilight Princess. And I suggest this because we do have this rumor from Jeff Grubb from a few months ago that something Zelda related is supposed to happen this year, maybe an announcement that wouldn't be Tears of the Kingdom related. And with this interview now telling us that there's not going to be any DLC, that really strengthens this rumor for something else Zelda. And maybe it's not just going to be a Lego set, it might actually be a game release or two. When you consider that before the delay of Tears of the Kingdom in 2022, Nintendo is making a concerted effort to put consistent Zelda content every single year, this lack of DLC I think makes more sense because it was strange to me that Nintendo didn't slot in Wind Waker or Twilight Princess in 2022 when they delayed Tears of the Kingdom. But with Tears of the Kingdom coming out fairly early into 2023 May, and it being such a large release, I was somewhat able to understand why they just pushed things up here and didn't offer anything extra in 2022. But something that made things odd to me is that I did make the assumption that there would be DLC for Tears of the Kingdom, so Tears of the Kingdom would be the entire focus for some time. And with Switch 2 reportedly coming out in the second half of 2024, the perfect time to release this extra Zelda content might be missed if they're going to just go straight to DLC after Tears of the Kingdom, but since they're not, slotting in these other Zelda games soon after, still on Switch before Switch 2, is fairly conceivable to me. And of course, there are other Zelda projects we could see as well. For example, what about the next top-down/2D Zelda game? I would really like to see more from that series. We only got the remake of Link's Awakening. We didn't get anything new. The last time we got a brand new top-down Zelda was A Link Between Worlds back in 2013. It's been 10 years. So conceivably, Nintendo could announce this fairly soon. And I'm also still open to the idea of us maybe getting a remake of some sort in the not-so-distant future as well. Now, I'm not saying immediately, but with a new system on the horizon, and them just starting development for the next big Zelda game, I would assume, we're probably years away before we see the next proper sequel to Tears of the Kingdom. And I don't mean a direct sequel, I just mean like the next mainline installment of the 3D Open Air Zeldas. So without DLC to fill up the gap, what will they do instead? They got the top-down Zelda, Twilight Princess, Wind Waker. That could help a little bit, but surely there's gotta be more. Some will argue that we'll get another Warriors game, but I think it might make more sense to maybe do another spin-off or two, or, as I've been suggesting, a big boy remake. Maybe Ocarina, or maybe they skip the Twilight Princess HD and they just focus on giving us something more like what we saw with that Zelda U tech demo. Before closing out here though, let me circle back to this idea of them simply moving on to the next big project. Hidemaru Fujibayashi talked about making the next game even more enjoyable. A bigger, better Zelda, perhaps? Doesn't necessarily have to be bigger, but I am kind of excited about them simply moving forward. I've enjoyed this world of Hyrule that we've played in both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but I also think that an entirely new world to explore would be even more exciting. And something made with just the Switch 2 in mind, ground up, they could do something that will just totally blow our minds. And considering that Tears of the Kingdom was basically done early last year and they kind of delayed it just so they can polish it up, we're not entirely sure where they're at with the development of the next Zelda project. Fujibayashi has already told us he's had something in mind, but they may already be well underway. And the reason I bring this up is because while I don't expect this game to come out next year or the year after, maybe they are making a considered effort to have a shorter development cycle than what we've seen between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I think it would behoove Nintendo to have a proper mainline new Open Air Zelda out relatively early into the life cycle of their next-gen system, which for now we're calling Switch 2. So who knows? Similar to how we got an announcement of the next Zelda 2 years after its release, maybe 2 years after release for Tears of the Kingdom, say 2025, we get a little teaser for the next big Zelda game, and maybe it doesn't take another 4 or so years, maybe it just takes another couple. That's me being a bit optimistic, but regardless, I do think Zelda content is coming fairly soon. Perhaps in this upcoming Nintendo Direct, whatever that might be. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. This is Andre's Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care.